The stories you're about to see are real. The rewards up to $5 million are real. This is Augusta Crime Stoppers, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't.
The Richmond County Sheriff's Office needs your help finding the black male you see on your screen. They say he shot someone on Norris Lane off 12th Street this Sunday. Officers found Marion Utley, age 50, of the 1600 block of Norris Lane with a gunshot wound to the chest, laying in the street. Utley later died from that gunshot wound. They're looking for Walter L. Johnson, who is about a 60-year-old black male, who is also from the 1600 block of Norris Lane area. Walter L. Johnson was seen leaving the scene walking northbound on 12th Street and is considered to be armed and dangerous. Crime Stoppers received a reliable tip that Walter L. Johnson is staying in an abandoned house within walking distance of Norris Lane. If you think you know where Walter L. Johnson, a 60-year-old black male who typically lives in the 1600 block of Norris Lane, may be, or if you are walking into an abandoned house anywhere in that area, please be very careful. This individual shot someone who may be his last best friend on earth. He's got a gun. He may not be in his right mind, and you could be his next victim just by walking into an abandoned house where he may be staying. If you think you know where the suspect may be, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744. Where you remain anonymous, stop killers living in abandoned houses around your neighborhood, and get paid. Sergeant Glenn Ron of the Richmond County Sheriff's Office reports on an aggravated assault at approximately 12:50 a.m. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office responded to 3320 Deansbridge Road, America's Best Inn, in reference to a stabbing. According to the black male victim, he was in his room when he heard a knock on the door. When the victim answered the door, two unknown black males wearing all black rushed into the room. Once inside the room, an altercation ensued, and the victim was stabbed in the shoulder and chest. The victim was transported to GRU. The injuries do not appear to be life-threatening at this time. Right. You know, they always say that, you get stabbed with a great big knife right in your chest, and they say it's non-life-threatening. Folks, if somebody comes up with a great big old butcher knife or whatever kind of knife and they stab you in the chest, we think it's pretty life-threatening, but, this is our opinion, and we hope you never get stabbed in the chest and find out. If you think you know who or where these assailants may be, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744. Where you remain anonymous, get stabbers off the street, and get paid.
Richmond County deputies are looking for two men who robbed a man and a woman at gunpoint outside an Augusta store. Deputies responded to Young's Grocery Store at 1671 Olive Road just before 9 p.m. on April 24th. A man and a woman told deputies when they left the store and got into their car, two men approached them pulling out a handgun and tried to rob them. The male victim struggled with the robber. The two victims were able to run back into the store for help. After they were inside the store, the second robber entered the car and took the woman's purse. The men were last seen running into Jennings Place apartments, according to the sheriff's office. The robbery was captured on surveillance video. Both men are in their late teens to early 20s, deputies said. One of them was wearing a white t-shirt, black or dark pants, black shoes, and a bandana tied around his head. The other man was wearing light-colored shorts, black shoes, and a bandana tied around his head with a black t-shirt. Deputies said the surveillance photos showed the men looking around the store before the robbery happened. Anyone with information on these men in the photos can contact any on-duty violent crimes investigator or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid. A 1-year-old has died as a result of being shot in a residence on Holden Street. The child was pronounced dead on the scene and has been taken to the GBI Atlanta lab for autopsy. No other information is available. If you have any information on this or any other crime in the CSRA, call the police. Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid. And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
The officer who returned fire at 2 terrorists who shot assault rifles outside an event displaying cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad probably saved lives, according to authorities. Security at Sunday's event in Garland, Texas included uniformed officers, SWAT teams, FBI, ATF, and several other people, according to Joe Harn of the Garland Police, when the 2 men pulled up in a dark-colored car. The men exited and, both armed with assault rifles, started firing at a parked police car, Harn said. An officer who typically works as a traffic cop returned fire and struck both men, Harn said. Both suspects died on the street. The officer did what he was trained to do. The hero officer has not been identified by name due to the fact that terrorists are now trying to kill him too. One security guard was injured in the attack with a gunshot wound to the lower leg. He was treated out of hospital and released. He did a very good job, said Harn, adding that the officer probably saved lives. According to authorities on scene, the suspects could not get past the outside perimeter, which was part of the police security strategy. We think the suspect's strategy was to get into the event center and into massacring the 200 people that were inside watching the show. We were able to stop those men before they were able to shoot anyone else. Later on, both attackers were claimed by ISIS, a terrorist group that's beheading Christians across the globe and has promised to launch mall attacks. Augusta Crime Stoppers has turned a tip over to the FBI and other authorities in this area because we do have 3 individuals who have been identified as possible terrorists who are working with someone who has ISIS displayed on their Facebook page and is most likely trying to get them to load up a tractor trailer with explosives and leave a smoking square city block somewhere in America. In this particular case, here in this area, which would be Augusta, Atlanta, right here, right around here. That's where they're from. One of them's from here, another's from Atlanta, and the other is at an unknown location. Because now there are possibly hundreds of thousands of sleeper cell terrorists, even the FBI admitting there are so many terrorists we cannot keep an eye on all of them anymore. Given the long history of the Muslim Brotherhood activity in this country, its declared objective to destroy the Western civilization from within, and the extensive evidence of successful influence operations at the highest levels of the U.S. government, Texas now activated their National Guard when the federal government wanted to have war games in Texas. Due to the fact that Texans no longer trust those in Washington pulling the strings, not our U.S. Army, they are activating their National Guard to keep an eye on Washington as it has war games in Texas. Recently, a top CIA agent warned America that America has already been infiltrated by Muslims at the top part of the U.S. government, and the U.S. government is no longer controlled by Americans. Recent riots in Ferguson, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, and other cities have indicated that these riots are being set up and funded by people who are trying to tear down and bring down the United States of America. If you know of anyone planning a riot or planning to loot or anything like that for any reason, especially if they're trying to destroy America by causing social instability, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744. Or you remain anonymous, save America, and get paid.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
Crime Stopper Suzanne Hamner reports, Obama looks to unconstitutionally take over local and state police. With Obamacare, the government took control of the health care insurance industry and, in effect, the health care of Americans under the ruse of ensuring the 20 to 30 million individuals who did not have health care insurance. Obama is now set to do another takeover, local and state policing. Monday, Obama unveiled his plan for the takeover, which the Daily Caller has dubbed Obama Law. Obama went on to say, in just the way the government took over health care through mandatory requirements for health insurance policies, issuing subsidies and federal grants to the state for medical expansion, Obama is set to exercise expanded control over local and state law enforcement. Per Obama, we need more information to find out how to take to scale best practices when it comes to training so that police officials are able to work in a way that reduces the possibilities of bias. Translation: all law enforcement officers are racist and need to be retrained. Obama suggested that state and local policing may need to be subordinated to federal authorities. Whenever Obama gets his fingers in the pie, you can guarantee he's going for the whole pie, not a sample. Now it begins. The federal government, under the control of one Barry Soetoro, also known as Obama, is following the move by Adolf Hitler in creating a brown shirt law enforcement army. Despite what Obama says, this federalization of state and local law enforcement has nothing to do with any type of law enforcement or policy and procedures used by those agencies. Obama lies time and time again. This has everything to do with being able to identify and target individuals and groups at a local level Obama views as dissidents. In other words, if you belong in a category Homeland Security identifies as right-wing extremist, or terrorist as they call you, then you will be targeted for roundup or worse. What better way to accomplish that than to elicit local and state law enforcement cooperation? Several reporters in the media have been warning their audience about the actions of Obama that would lead to the subjugation of individuals and the internment of individuals in FEMA camps. But many of the sheeple still don't see that the wolf, not the shepherd or his trusty sheepdog, are standing guard over them. The government has taken over health care insurance and health care, usurped education, and further seek to brainwash our children through Common Core and cause the property and housing bubble through mortgage rules established for the banking industry, not the citizens. All these past actions have resulted in disaster. If the past is any indication of the future, the federalization of state and local law enforcement will be as well. At this point of time, before the takeover, Americans need to band together at the local level, bombarding elected officials to initiate laws preventing their agencies from taking part in this fiasco. Citizens will need to press their county sheriffs to maintain their oath to the Constitution of the U.S. and their respective states. States' legislatures will need to be bombarded with a grassroots effort to resist this Nazi establishment of the American brown shirts. If this is not stopped, the U.S. will experience all the flavor of Hitler's Nazi Germany, meaning America will no longer be a free country.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
The Richmond County government is redoing the animal ordinance and is going to demand at this time that you purchase a box or a cage to put in the back of each of your pickup trucks that you transport your animals in, unless you're in a below 35 mile an hour zone, and that you cannot tether your dog at all. Here's our response to these two laws that they're trying to pass that are unconstitutional. They violate your property rights. We all love our furry family, but furry family are by law property. And what they're trying to do is tell you what you can and cannot do with your property, even if it endangers you, so you can no longer protect your property or keep your property. Here's our response. Tethering for no more than 24 hours and being able to transport dogs in the back of your truck as long as they're secured so they cannot fall out is the national standard of best practices. Those who ordered citizens to cage their furry family were sued, lost, and had to pay and change the law to allow owners their rights. Yes, people, you still have rights to your property. For a while, at least. A dog in the back of your truck protects your truck and your valuable supplies and tools. Watson the Wonder Dog is a working security guard. He guards our stuff so we can maintain $1 million+ in real estate and other enterprises that produce the revenue to pay all Crime Stopper rewards for this region. If we continue to be stolen blind like we were before we got Watson, we may not be able to pay large rewards to stop crime. That would make the framers of this ordinance partly responsible for endangering the public and may even have to pay damages to crime victims because Crime Stoppers could no longer pay cash rewards and the criminals that should have gone to jail instead robbed, raped, carjacked, and home invaded the citizens. Since Crime Stoppers opened the Augusta Regional Office that serves all the counties from here to halfway to Atlanta, Athens, Savannah, and Macon, violent gun crime has dropped remarkably. Not being able to have a guard dog who can scare off the thieves and robbers and rapists and home invaders and carjackers while it's still sitting in the back of the truck or tethered for short periods, never more than a few hours, has allowed us to prosper. The difference in thieves stealing us blind is why we can offer much bigger rewards, up to $5 million. We, in the past, could not park our truck with parts, equipment, copper pipes, fittings, marble, or tools in our truck while we picked up more supplies before. Now we can, because with Watson on guard, it's always still there when we come back to our truck. This law as written is public endangerment, interfering with stopping crime, aiding, and allows theft, burglary, rape, and home invasions. We hope this group understands this is a public safety and civil rights issue before they lose in court, hear about the same thing from a judge, and have to pay damages. All they have to do is add an exemption in 2 places to stay out of court. 1. Allow tethering for short periods of time. Everybody does it, no more than 24 hours. Very seldom does anyone have their dog tethered that treats their dog well like we do. We never leave Watson out for more than a few hours unless we have an active theft attempt. 2. Allow securing your dog in the back of your truck if the animal is there in a way where they cannot fly out no matter what, and you have the perfect ordinance. Otherwise, as they research, they'll see this ordinance will not meet best practices as written, as the other ordinance writers like this had to do after being sued. If a lawsuit is filed, and it looks at least several will, then the framers of this ordinance and anyone else involved in public endangerment / violating your federal civil rights of local citizens may be subpoenaed for years to federal court and may even suffer up to 10 days in jail for each time they do not appear for years or until all the cases are settled.
Let's face it, folks, crime can strike at any time, and we have to do all we can to make ourselves and our homes a safer place. Quit just talking about it and just go ahead and do it. Please, go down to your local humane society and adopt a good watchdog. For around $100, you get the dog that has already been fixed, had all its shots, with an ID chip in every dog. I prefer a big dog with a big bark. Crooks will not usually hit the house with the aggressive bark behind the door. Just think, a good watchdog might just be the right move for you in these very dangerous times of crimes.
911? I just broke into a house and the owner came home.
You broke into a house?
Yeah.
Where at?
I don't know.
Okay, so are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you with...
I think they have guns.
Okay, where are you?
I don't know.
You have no clue where you are.
The Richmond County Sheriff's Office reports 8 vacant townhomes were broken into recently. The report says a suspect broke into the back, either busting the glass or removing doorknobs, and left the door wide open. A witness says about 3 or 4 nights ago, around the time this happened, 2 guys were walking from there late at night with duffel bags. "Oh, why didn't you call the cops? Duh." The police report says they stole an air conditioning unit, 2 refrigerators, and a stove. Those are some duffel bags. The dollar amount of what was stolen was around $1,200, but the thieves will likely only get a couple of $100 or less for risking jail. This isn't the only theft this week. Another rental property says copper was stolen from them too. The landlord of that property says damage from those thefts totaled more than $7,000. This is why AugustaCrimeStoppers and Crime Reports and Rewards is working day and night to get the message out that no matter how much we spend and raise taxes, it won't do any good, because many of the things we invest in for future are getting stolen before anyone has a chance to get a return on them. This is causing money to go to other things instead of creating jobs that create the tax base all government employees live off of. If you know who or where the suspects that burglarized these homes may be, please call Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or email your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you remain anonymous and keep your medal.
As copper prices go through the roof, more and more copper wire is being targeted by thieves in raids across country New South Wales. It's an easy, almost foolproof way of making quick cash. But that is coming to an end thanks to new technology being introduced by power supplier Country Energy.
You simply spray, tape, and check, and suddenly this $3,000 reel of copper wire is safe, encoded as Country Energy property.
Basically what it is, it's a forensic identifier. It's clear spray that we can spray on the surface of copper or tools or computers or absolutely anything. We can then identify that actual product with a reader.
Today in Wagga, the company behind the technology showed its newest customers, Country Energy, how it all works. It's a quick process, And over the next few days in Wagga, they'll spray around 5,000 items, things like copper wire and tools that can be easily pinched. And apparently it's just as quick to track down the offenders.
It's a 2-second process of us actually finding the product, putting the reader on the surface, pressing a button, and we can identify the copper.
2 seconds. Maybe, maybe not.
We have to work now.
But rest assured, would-be thieves, the system did work, eventually. And lucky for Country Energy, they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of copper wire.
Probably over the last 6 months we've had about over a dozen break-ins across the region in smaller field service centres as well as the larger ones like this.
Country Energy won't divulge how much this magic spray is costing its customers, but says the price is relative to the problem. The spray has already been used at similar service depots in Grafton and Dubbo, and Country Energy will consider its use on substation equipment in the near future. Melinda Hayter, Prime News.
The Richmond County Sheriff's Office reports about $2,000 worth of copper wire was stolen from 2 mobile homes Wednesday on the 3600 block of Peach Orchard Road. The victim said the copper wire was taken from a couple of mobile homes. Deputies did not see any damage or break-in evidence, but they did see that the wire had been cut from underneath both of the mobile homes. If you think you know who or where these copper wire thieves may be, please call the police before they cut your copper wire out. Copper wire thieves are cutting the lightning protection out of local telephone poles. The little copper wire that forms the ground to telephone poles keeps your entire neighborhood electrical system from catching the lightning and feeding it into your home, which is why so many homes burned down before we began putting copper grounds. So if you know where any copper thieves are, they're the most dangerous type, and their thefts have resulted in a tremendous amount of homes being burned to the ground and a lot of deaths. So stealing copper is not the little crime somebody may think it may be. If you think you know who or where these copper thieves may be, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744. Or you remain anonymous, keep your entire neighborhood from getting electrocuted and maybe your house being burnt down, and get paid.
Augusta Crime Stoppers is brought to you by WBEK Channel 16 and Augusta Crime Stoppers. You too could be a crime stopper. If you have any information on any crime, call our tip line at 1-800-222-TIPS. Augusta Crime Stoppers is a production of Michael's Media. Augusta Crime Stoppers, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't.